Hello, folks. Going to do a bit of a discussion with our friend Mr. Circle here, Mr. Outer Circle, who is more than welcome back on the channel. It's been far too long since we've had him on. And we're going to generally discuss the hobby and an initiative that he's putting forward on his channel that I thought was well worth spreading the word about. So, I think before we started, hi Maka, by the way. I think before we started, we were talking, or I started recording, we were talking about price increases. Could you repeat what you said about the Age of Sigmar price increase of the box just before we started?
Yeah. So, first of all, hi everyone. Mr. Circle here. I don't call myself that. The company does, by the way. That's a long-running joke. But I was talking about the price of the boxes because I was curious, like, at what point do we start to say, "Oh, that's getting a bit, on the nose?" And I went back and looked, and it was 125 US dollars for the 1.0 Age of Sigmar, the very first starter box for all of Age of Sigmar after they killed the old world. And to buy a Vanguard box now, like Blades of Corn Vanguard box, you get less corn miniatures than what you do in just the corn half of that old Age of Sigmar starter set. Not even 10 years ago, it was 2015, middle of 2015. So 9 years ago. And the Vanguard box now, with less miniatures in just the corn half, is $20 more. It was 125 for the entire Age of Sigmar starter set. It's 145 US dollars for just the Vanguard box now. So essentially, you could say double the amount of models, plus rules, plus wacky sticks, plus dice, plus decals, and it was still $20 cheaper to buy into the game 9 years ago. So, like, just on price alone, model for model, it's over 200% markup
Yeah,
in just 9 years.
and the last point you made there was, my wages have not gone up 400% over the last couple of years. So why in the hell are these models that I'm paying for just being absolutely, we're being. At the end of the day, I don't get. I would love. It's never going to happen. But I would love to sit down with somebody from Games Workshop and have them explain where these prices come from. It's never ever going to happen. But that
I'd just like to
original,
sit down and explain the sustainability to me, because I want new people, young people, youthful generation coming up to get into this hobby and have that same pure excitement, that drive, that motivation that I had when I was, 7 years old and looking through the window of a store at like one of the first games workshops in this country going, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I want to just immerse myself in the world. I want to read everything. I want to do everything," rifling through all the blister packs, just imagining, "Oh, what if I painted this? What if I do this?" Back in the days when everything was black and white, like color printing wasn't a thing yet, you know, and it completely captured my imagination. I want that for the new generation coming up. I don't want to see a game that prices itself out of the market and just,
that's
hits
where
its
we
hitting
are.
point and
I mean,
dies.
that's where we are. Like, I think we're there now. I think we're at the point where. But look at that Skaven Blight, not Skaven Blight, the Skaven Tide box set. Absolutely stunning models. I really like them, and I put it on the stream last Sunday, and I was like, I want this box. Then look at the price, and like, you, what? You want £160 for this? And then
I don't want it that much, you said.
yeah, I want half the box. I like Skaven, but I want the Stormcast Eternals. They look amazing. Um, and then a guy from Australia in the chat was like, "Yeah, you think you have it bad? Like, I if I got this box, I literally can't pay my rent. Like, like my rent's gone, and a lot of my food budget is gone on this box if I got this box." And I was
So,
like,
for some perspective, like, I'm trying, probably failing, but trying to champion the average person. Um, the average Australian worker, no matter what they say about like medium wage and all that bull crap, which takes into account a lot of high end wage earners, which really balances out the bottom end. That's the half of an average week's pay before like buying any groceries, before paying your rent, before anything like that. Um, that amount of money is like half of what the average Australian family will earn. And you'll earn less than that if you're like, a teenager working at McDonald's or something. So it's a sizable
It's a chunk.
of,
Yeah.
of controller to pay down.
And I don't think, again, I think we said this in previous videos that we've done together, in that we're not saying, you know, hobby shouldn't be expensive. That's not what we're saying at all. And we're not saying that Games Workshop shouldn't make profit. They should, because, you know, they create awesome products at the end of the day. What we're saying is that there needs to be some realism here on the cost of living, what people can and cannot afford, and there needs to be a serious reality check there. Because I do not think, again, I've not worked there for, 5-6 years now, so it may have changed in the time, but the attitudes that I saw when I was there, they didn't really factor in the price. They said you're getting a really good deal. What they would say about the Skaven Tide box set, right, is that you're getting upwards of 45 to 50 models, and each of these units would be £35 out the box, and you're getting them all for 160 odd pounds, which is a really good deal. And that's true if you're looking at it from a Games Workshop perspective. We're giving you these models, but what people don't seem to understand when they throw out that argument is Games Workshop make the original price. So it's Games Workshop's choice to sell you 10 models for £37.50. You know? So you're not getting a saving. In real world money, you're not getting a saving by spending £160 on these models. They just seem to be in their own bubble. They're in their own world. And whilst the rest of geekdom has had to play ball, even D&D, you know, their prices have remained kind of stagnant in their books and things like that, you know? They had a big explosion in popularity, but their prices didn't shoot up accordingly. They went up a little bit, but didn't go through the roof for their books. You know, you have video games now.
They're not 400% up in 9 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we are now. Games Workshop are. It's been a running joke, but if you showed this to a hobbyist 15 years ago, they would balk. And back then, Games Workshop's prices were a joke, were a meme. But 15 years ago, if you showed this to a guy in 2007, 2008, they'd be like, what? How much? Like, and they weren't earning that much less than what we're earning now. Do you know what I mean? We are, as you said before, our wages have not jumped. They would probably look at the inflation of our wages and go, that's a kind of low. You should probably be getting more than that after 10, 15 years. And then you look at the prices of Hobby and 40k. And even other companies, like I see, like somebody was showing me Malifaux and Battletech and all these other things, and I'm just like, that's still really expensive for what it is, you know. And I caught a bit of flack on the stream.
Because I can speak to that. A lot of people who are running those companies are affiliated with Games Workshop in some capacity. Because so many people in the industry have passed through Games Workshop, it sort of becomes a natural, you know, I won't say point of comparison, but it's like, you know, it's very easy to find people whose experience is, I worked for Games Workshop. And then they'll get preferential hiring over someone who's not worked for any miniatures company, right? Because at least they've got some experience. So you end up with a lot of people, you know, like look at the developers and writers for many systems. You've got like Alessio Cavatore over at Mantic.
Yeah.
Is it Andy Chambers, I think, over at looks after it'll come to me. Drop Zone and
is it
Drop
Warlord
Fleet
now?
I think might be a
Warlord
Warlord
with Rick
now.
Priestley. Yeah, he's with Rick. Yeah, a Warlord.
Yeah. Then you got the Perry twins, obviously Perry Miniatures. Like Games Workshop staff have proliferated through a lot of the scene, which is fine, but it also means that like monkey see, monkey do, and what you've learned is you've learned Games Workshop strategies, so you will inevitably take some of those with you, right? Because that's your experiences. And yeah, I'm fine with Games Workshop earning money. I want them to earn money, right? If they're earning money and paying all their bills, they'll bring out stuff that we want. And people like to say this sort of like gotcha argument. Or Games Workshop, you know, they've got shareholders. It's like they need to get money for shareholders. It's like, yes, they do. But people lose sight of the fact that you've also not only have to pay a dividend, a return on investment to shareholders, it's also got to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? Games Workshop strategy is like, you know, all of the things that people talk about with like climate change and logging, for example, right? Chopping down Brazilian rainforest. They're doing that for the miniatures market. They are robbing Peter to pay Paul. They are robbing the company's future potential. I feel that without a drastic course correction, it's going to be like a Kodak. It's everything's fine until suddenly it isn't. They'll go from hundreds of millions in profit one year to a massive deficit the next,
Blockbuster.
and wonder where it all went wrong.
Yeah, you're looking at an obsolete. Especially, I don't get how. This is back in the day as well. Like, I'd have this conversation with colleagues, is that I don't get how we as a company at the time are looking at 3D printing and not shitting a brick. Because at the time, in 2015 to 20, right, 3D printing was there, but it was nowhere near what we're seeing now. It was still quite expensive. It was still quite, ungainly. You had to get a lot of equipment installed, and it wasn't as accessible as it is. And even then, there were other managers saying that's going to be a problem in the future. That's going to be a serious problem. And then they didn't course correct, and I left the company. And now even ex-colleagues and friends who are still there are saying, yeah, that they've not. This the same. It's the same attitude of this will never catch on. They literally think it will never catch on. It's already caught on several years ago, and people are churning out armies. And I saw one thing you showed me the other month about the scenery that you're making and things like that. It's like, some of this stuff's better than Games Workshop and what they produce,
and cheaper.
And yeah, like, I mean, about
especially
800-900% cheaper. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, it's crazy.
This is where, like, my prediction is 2040. 2040, they're stuffed as a company if they continue down this trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it from perspective things like having run a factory and knowing what it costs and all of that. And I'm looking at like their factory expansions and going, why investing in that? I'd be investing less into physical machines because I'll be going, I'm probably not going to get my money back on that investment.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be looking more at, let's fix up our rules writing. Let's try and undo some of this community damage and really ingratiate ourselves with the community. Because printers used to take a day, like a solid day, to produce a marine-sized miniature. And that was on a screen smaller than your phone. Now printers are printing on screens the size of iPads or small iPads, and they'll print that in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's in like 4 years of advancement. I reckon by the mid-2030s, 10 years' time or so, we'll probably be in a place where it's like, hey, Siri, print me 10 tactical Marines.
Yeah.
Okay, printing 10 tactical Marines. Do you want Ultramarines? Blood Angels, please.
Put it in the Omni Fabricator, and it just comes out.
You'll pop down to the supermarket, pick up some groceries, come home, and they've already been printed. They're being washed and cleaned all inside the machine. The machine's just waiting for you to pluck the finished miniatures out of it, ready to go. I think that's how quickly the technology will advance, because all these companies, like the 3D printing companies, I know some of them, like Creality, I've spoken to at depth at the technical level with engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And with people in the management part of the company. And with them, I've sort of voiced some thoughts of mine on 3D printing. And they, unlike Games Workshop, are willing to listen. And they're like, yeah, the market is so tight between them. They're all trying their hardest to come up with the next big technological innovation because they want the market share. They're all competing with each other. So it's driving this crazy growth in these 3D printing machines. Yeah, it has to be, right? Because these companies will live or die based off making the product that everyone buys.
Well, the first one that makes it printed that somebody like me would buy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I look at I'm really lazy. I'm tech savvy, but I'm more of a software guy. I'm not a guy who goes in building shit. I'm not that kind of dude. So if you can make me buy a 3D printer, that's I would look at that as terminal velocity then. If you can make a guy like me go, you know what, I'm getting one of those. Screw this, I'm getting one of those. Somebody completely lazy,
it'll happen,
who doesn't want to be into it at all, doesn't want to. If it's no faff for me and no stress for me to get a 3D printer and print off an army, that's terminal velocity. That's when we're going to see there needs to be a sea change. And I'm going to be honest with you, Macca, I think 2040 is a bit generous in terms of where we're going to be with Games Workshop, because the price increases year on year, unless they've got some sort of 10-15 year plan when they go, yeah, first 10 years we increase the prices, then we drop them. because we know we're going to be up against 3D printing and we'll beat them because it's authentic Games Workshop stuff, or we can move into 3D printing ourselves, selling our own files, things like that. Unless they've got that in place, what they're doing now is corporate suicide. Like they're literally just going, okay, well, no, we'll continue upping the prices and we'll continue telling you what you need to pay us we'll continue driving small businesses out of business because we're not passing on the savings to them when they're buying in bulk. Composite Games, who work with me, struggle, and they've struggled to the point where, they're like, well, you struggle to fulfill orders because they're not sending out. Well, number one, they're not sending out the models in a timely fashion because they don't see you as big enough to care about you, even though you've got an account with them. So go figure. And number two, they're not passing you on the savings. So you're running this business, the rent, which is astronomical in the United Kingdom. It's a disgrace how much you need to pay in city centres. So you're paying your rent, you're paying your power, you're paying your water. Then you're paying your staff and your taxes. All that stuff. Now, and your insurance. So there's 6 things, 6 big drains. And now Games Workshop come to you and they say, yeah, do you know that 20% discount you used to get? Yeah, it's 10 now. It's 10. Out of nowhere. Yeah, it's 10. Why?
Same problem here. Just killing the mum and pop stores, as it were.
They don't want them.
And I don't want to be like super duper negative, because as I discussed with you off air, there's something really negative in the pipeline here that I just won't talk about because I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
In short, fuck.
And I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I think I can say for wargaming in Australia, especially.
Yeah.
Regarding Games Workshop, and I just, like I said, I want kids to come into this hobby and have that same wow that I had, because this hobby should be aimed at kids. Like adults obviously can appreciate things on a greater level, but the pure imagination and wonderment that children have, and depriving them of that because the game is just such an artless cash cow. I just find it sad. I do, genuinely.
No, I think we're at the. That's why I said like 2040 to me would seemed a very, very kind to them with their attitudes and the way that they're going about. I don't know what the business model is. If we're going, we'll touch on this because it's going to lead into your initiative of what you're doing on your channel, which I think is great. I don't know where they're pulling the hobby base because at the moment for me. What I thought they were trying to do, and I didn't agree with it, but I thought they were trying to do this. I thought they were trying to create an Apple store out of their Games Workshop stores, where you go in, you may buy the starter box set, but everything more specialised, fuck off, we don't want to sell you that. You go and do that yourself, right? And you go to one of our partners, and they'll sort you out. So you go into Games Workshop, there's no hobby in the store at all, apart from intro games. That's it. That's all we do is intro games. And that's it. We only sell the starter box sets and intro games. If you come in here for anything else, no. Now, though, looking at stores over here, and the people who work in retail over here, where they're especially told, you need to do intro games, but you need to sell everything else as well. Like you are first and foremost a retail store. That's what the brief is now. Is that you're there to make targets. Well, their business plan and their actions don't seem to put that forwards. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if there are separate factions even within Games Workshop pulling in separate directions. Because the instructions that the stores have in the UK, sell loads of models, but you're only really there to be an introduction to people in the hobby. Well, you can't we be both? Can't I have people playing in my store and have an introduction table and have everything? Why can't I have everything? Why can't we do all that? I thought that they were going down this route of let's make it an Apple store, let's make it this. And I can see the logic in that, because if you're going down a route where eventually we're going to get to 3D printing, where you might not have any physical stock in store. We may come at a time in 2040, as you say, where Games Workshops have several 3D printers. And you order it and they print it there for you, say, come back in 2 hours. If that's where they think they're going to go, then I understand what they're doing. What I don't understand is why we can't have one, games in the stores. I've always been a champion of that. There is no better advertisement for the hobby than watching dudes who are older than you play the game and have fun. There is no better advertisement. You not on TV, not on anything. It's better than word of mouth. You can see it happening right in front of you. And the fact that they've gutted that out of their stores, and also driving the stores that have that out of business, I just don't see how it makes sense. This is like a company that doesn't want to succeed. Do you know what I'm saying? It's literally like every decision we make has to be something that drives us further into the drain. And all I'm seeing is
this is more like a short-sightedness.
Yeah,
more than
that's
anything.
the word I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking at the now and going, oh, if I do this, then this is the immediate outcome. They don't think, well, what's the 2 steps, 3 steps removed from this outcome?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it crosses their mind, because they're like, well, we rose prices in the past. We haven't tanked. In fact, we've made record profits. So why don't we just keep doing that? Like, it's that really like base level, like business like, because you talk with people. Like, I talk to people all the time, friends who, have like masters and doctorates in business, and they look at it and they're like appalled. They're like, that is so unsustainable.
Yeah.
But the profit margin, revenue percentage compared to what most companies get is just, they're like, holy crap, these people are, this is not sustainable, because you're making so much when most other businesses are struggling to get like 10-12% revenue, and Games Workshop's coming in with, like 40% revenue.
Yeah.
It's like, just ease your foot off the accelerator for like a good 10 years, but they can't, because they're just tied to the concept. They just can't not have the big growth year on year. They've become addicted to it. And part of that is because half of the people in their upper management, as we've seen from their financial reports, are in stock options as part of their bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So they get paid in a bunch of stock, in addition to, like, Kevin Roundtree's like 1.2 million pounds in wage, and like 400 grand of it, I think, is, or 400 additional to that, I can't remember, it's been a year since I last read it, is in stock options. So for him, if he can drive up those prices by going, oh, we had a bumper year, then he can sell that stock and make a crap load of money from selling the stock. Right? So the very people running it are incentivized to aim for short-term gain, because a short-term gain immediately affects them and their bottom line. It's just bad. It's like politicians, It's literally, you're trusting the people whose best intentions go directly against your intentions.
I mean, if you're looking to cultivate a hobby, right? Games Workshop's main proviso, like I don't think it's this anymore, but their main mission statement that you get. So when you become a manager at Games Workshop, right, you get a thing called the Little Black Book. So the Little Black Book is essentially the Bible. I've got it. It's literally in the other room, right? It's a little. You're under an NDA not to read it out and not to, to show it to anybody. But their mission statement is public, so I can read that bit out. It's fine. And the mission statement is literally, it's in the front of the book, page 1. We want to sell and make the best miniatures in the world, and we want to continue doing that forever. It's like, well, okay, you tell me how driving away your customer base links back into that mission statement. And people will point to, they made £445.4 million in 2023, right? People will point to that. What people don't seem to realise is that may be a lot of the pandemic inflation, like, still coming down, Warhammer 40,000 itself is a huge cash cow. That may be a thing. But a lot of this is prices. A lot of this is stuff that's going to drive away your core fan base. And the unfortunate thing is, when I see numbers like that, the 445 million, it's fine. There will come a time when that comes down. I can't see a time. Looking at all of their... And people will say on this video now, and I completely respect what they're saying when they say, well, it hasn't happened yet. They're still making a lot of money. They're still making money hand over fist. And to me, they're making money hand over fist because the prices keep going up. But there's going to come a time when we see a critical mass where people say, well, hang on, I've done it. I've reached that point. multiple other people have reached that point when they've said, no, I can't do this. I think when you get to the point when your staff, who get a 50% discount, can't afford to do the hobby, that's when we start to see, okay, it's a bit much now. Like, we're starting to see £37.50 for 10 Marines. No, I think we're there, and I just fail to see how any of their practices actually link back into that that modus operandi. Or we want to do this forever. It's like, well, the world's changing. You can't continue doing what you're doing now forever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we're getting to the point now where people, even on live streams and other places, are saying, look, but I can't afford it. I really want this box set, but I can't afford it. I really wanted. You know, a guy said to me he wanted Lionel Johnson, right? Waited 2 years. You had to wait 2 years before it would come in stock, and you could go and get it. You know, it's. I'm not sure anymore. But again, me and you will say all this, but the numbers keep going up, and
Well,
that's
again,
you know,
they will go up. They'll go up for some time, but people, I think, like everything in life, you're like me. You're passionate about history, right?
yeah.
What happened in the 80s with like video games crash? Like think about like
BT and all
Atari,
that. Yeah.
right? How big was Atari? You know, how big was Kodak before like digital cameras? Like, it was the brand in cameras. And still is, if you're like making a movie and you want to use, you know, old school film, sure. Or, you know, you're an artist who uses film for their camera, but you know, for the average layperson, they don't go out and buy a Kodak camera. They buy a Sony or a Nikon, you know, or a Canon. Those are the big, you know, camera companies. But it happened overnight with those companies. Games Workshop's more like a Blockbuster in many ways. It's like it's serving a market and it's doing great right this second, but they don't see that change is on the horizon. You know, for Blockbuster, it was like digital streaming, right? And the slow death of cinema. And it's like they wanted to keep the same business model. They didn't really try and innovate. And then all of a sudden, it went from being profitable to just unprofitable very, very quickly. And yep, there's fanboys and such, and you know, all that right now, who are happy to pay the prices and go, oh, I can still afford it. There's no problem. At some point, they just won't be able to afford it. And people are already starting to sacrifice the things they need in everyday life, whether it's rent, food, whatever, to try and buy a box of models.
Yeah.
Like, prioritize. Please look after yourself. Look after your family. Look after your future. Like, buying models is just not worth it when all of that is on the line.
Well, I think we've had
Personal opinion, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think we've had. So it's funny you should say that, because there was an interview. It's quite controversial. It was a couple of years ago now, where Ian Livingston, who was one of the original, well, he's co-founder of Games Workshop, right, the very first shop. He also co-founded Eidos Interactive, which people don't remember, but it was a big video game company in the UK. He founded as well. That did very well. And he said something very, very similar in that the unsustainability of the current model is... He's in his 70s now, so he doesn't give a shit. Now he's got 20, 30 million in the bank, so he was able to say, look, you know, no, it's this ain't sustainable. This is not a business model that will continue forever. That's the point I was trying to make. This is not a business model that is able to be linked into that mission statement. If you want to continue to do it forever, this is not the way to go about it. The way to go about it is to stop putting money in massive infrastructure that is rapidly going out of fashion. Infrastructure should get smaller. The more you refine your process of making models, it should get cheaper. It should get smaller. Because you figure out ways to advance it and do it in a cheaper fashion, in a quicker fashion as you go on. You should not be buying warehouses, factories, which is what they're doing in the UK, right? In Nottingham. They're upgrading all the facilities. They're buying new investment parks and things like that to put new factories into. Spending tens, perhaps hundreds of millions of pounds doing, putting the parts in place for that infrastructure. Where, at the moment, yes, we can see that there is a big a dearth of models that people want and aren't able to get. The way you go about it is you streamline your process and you make it more, you make it more efficient. You don't bloat it again, and you don't spend far more money on this process that you need to. What they need to do is exactly what you said. That's invest in the rules, invest in the team, invest in the core parts of the business. That is your studio teams, right? You canvass the opinion of the community at whole. You treat them with respect. You don't talk down to them. You make sure that you hold your community up as something that needs to be celebrated, and you milk the money accordingly. That's what you do. You do not spend hundreds of millions of pounds on vanity projects, which is what they're doing. We've got the biggest. They're very proud of it. If you go on their corporate website, we've got the biggest factories in the world producing the best models. You don't need the biggest factory in the world. You don't. Look where Twitch is. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a completely different thing, but Twitch is, the Premier League in England, huge thing, right? Massive thing. They're in 3 offices in central London, and hardly anybody knows where they are. Because it's cost cutting. Why do we need to be in a massive big place? We don't. We're making money hand over fist, and they just don't seem to understand that this is not sustainable. They're putting money into an infrastructure that will be useless in 20 years because of 3D printing. So, you have these acres of manufacturing works, of factories, of boxing facilities, of all these things where the trolls, quote unquote, work, that they call them, right, in the factories. All of that space in 10 years will be empty because the hobby will be 3D printing. That's the future of the hobby. You would agree with that, right? That's not a controversial thing to say. In 10, 15 years, that's where we are.
It will begin with a small reduction, I think, and this is my putting on my production manager hat. They'll start removing the accessories. That's the first thing to go. So your Blood Angel shoulder pads, your weapons. Then slowly, it's the characters of different factions start to vanish, and really, the last thing to go will be the squads, the units of models, where it's like we can sell you a tactical squad, and you can print yourself the shoulder pads and that to customize them to your own. And they'll be the final thing that goes. But it will happen unless they do something dramatically different, because the only thing plastic has is it's more user-friendly than resin.
Yeah.
Realistically. And people look at current printing and go, oh, smell, fumes, nasty chemicals, don't want to handle that. Yep. And if that's all that's holding people back, which pretty much is, what's going to happen when that's not an issue anymore? I mean, you've got no loyalty from the customer base, because who's going to want to come back to the company after you go, look, we fleeced you for years and years and years. Now you've wised up to it and there's better options on the market. Now we want to play ball.
Yeah.
People won't have loyalty for that.
That's the thing. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That's the thing. It is that, yes, we've got all of this stuff here. We've fleecing is a really good way of putting it. Yeah, we fleeced you for 10, 20, 30 years, but now the game is up. So now we're going to join everybody else and do 3D printing. Fuck off. Because
now that it's no longer working in our favour, we want to change direction.
Yeah, but there will be other companies, Mako, who do it better by that stage. There'll be other companies who have done this for 10, 15, 20 years, 3D printing. They will have it down to a fine art, and their process of making models will be streamlined because they have brains, and there's not too many cooks boiling the broth. There'll be companies of 10, 20 dudes, if that, making thousands of models, making money hand over fist. I think
for a lot of people, in 15 to 20 years' time, the 3D printer is just going to become another appliance around the house, like a microwave oven.
So they're selling files
for a lot of
models.
people.
Really?
Well, people at home are just going to want to, you think about it, there are middle-aged, suburban soccer mums who have 3D printers now as a hobby. Right? Filament printers for the most part. But, they can print out hampers for their kids, for, the local book club or whatever it might be, Like, once the technology becomes easy enough for people to use and they just realize they could just make something they need, like again, wives with time on their hands, I know what they're like because I have one. you know, if they can print themselves out, oh, I need some new hooks to hang some, you know, scarves on. Print, you know, that kind of easy convenience that will come. Then there'll be little kids going, Mum, can I use the printer to make Warhammer? And she looks and she goes, $300 for a starter set? Or like 30 cents for my printer. Yeah, little Billy, use the printer. That's what people will do, especially as prices go up.
I think
I've just got the feeling I've got. I
well,
can't show you evidence.
no, I think that's what we need to say. We're not in Games Workshop's heads. We don't. For all we know, they could have looked at this sea change, looked at the landscape, and gone, "Hey, hang on, in 10, 15 years, all of these facilities are going to be obsolete. So, you know, why don't we rent them? Why don't we own them for now? But it's prime real estate land. We can sell it later on." So we can make loads of models now. We can make our bank now. To me, it resembles, and this is alarming, but it resembles a guy stuffing his pockets on the way out the door. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're in the last 10, 15 years of us making a physical product to sell to people. Let's sell it all. Let's go for it. There's 10, 15 years, make record profits, and then when the time comes, people will be stupid enough to get into bed with us in 3D printing. We'll just say, yeah, 3D printing is now our thing. Quash all of this and let's get on with it. My problem is that I don't think people will go for that. I think that will be a stretch too far when you look at the prices, because you know, when Games Workshop offer you a 3D printing service, it will not be a price efficient service. It's going to be the most expensive one on the market because it's got the Games Workshop logo on it. You know, they almost, I am telling you now, I once tried to advertise my Games Workshop store, right? I had a business. I was in the store. I had a business plan. I put it forwards to head office, and they gave me the job of running the store. And I wanted to advertise, and I wanted to go into the local newspaper. I wanted to be like, oh, take photographs, like, hey, here's the Games Workshop guy, and I did that, right? There are pictures of me out there in a certain newspaper, in a certain local place in the UK I won't mention, where I'm outside my store. Hey, it's my store. Come on in. You know, let's show you what it's all about. So I took the reporter in, and I did him an intro game. We had some fun, and they wrote their little editorial for me. It was great, and it went out. I got absolutely bollocked for this, and it's only the fact I just started. This is like my third week that they didn't sack me. Like, they said, look, everyone needs to learn. It's fine, but you don't do that again. We're Games Workshop. We don't advertise. We don't advertise. Because that makes us the same as everybody else. We're Games Workshop. We don't do sales. Because if we do sales, then we devalue our own product. Other companies do sales. Well, fuck other companies. We're Games Workshop. We don't do sales. That's their attitude. And it's not changed. So if they get into 3D printing,
the egotistical thing, right?
Yeah.
Of just thinking
We're the best.
The market so tightly.
Yeah, we're the best. So why would you? And it's not changed. So if they get into 3D printing, we'll be in exactly the same position. They will price it with the Games Workshop model on it, with the Games Workshop, logo. And I'll say, yeah, it's this price. Go fuck yourself. The Games Workshop. And there's part of me that sort of goes, but I kind of respect it. It's kind of like an evil empire. I kind of respect it. But it was one of those things where they are convinced that they're too good to get in bed. Do you know who they thought? Whenever we went to Nottingham, we did training. Do you know who Games Workshop thought their main competitors were on the high street for people walking around? Ann Summers. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Ann Summers. Because they said, we're a similar sized company, right? We have similar turnover, everything, right? And we're a niche product on the high street. So we compare our numbers. We don't compare them to Mantic. They don't even see them as companies. They look at every other company out there, even Wizards of the Coast. They even talk down to Wizards of the Coast. They were like, yeah, fucking these amateurs, right? No, their competition was Ann Summers. because they're both niche products. They're both products that are associated with shame, where you have to get over that hurdle to go in, right? So, and in a way, they're right, and that's who they styled themselves. They said, look, our business model needs to be like that, because if you go into Ann Summers, what happens, right? You get this bubbly teenager coming over to you, do all this, do all that, fine, and, let me show you all this other stuff. There's jokes comedians tell about it, where they go into Ann Summers stores, and they come over to you. They don't care if you film them, they're like, oh, yeah, here's how this works, here's how that works, this is like fucking 20-inch, whatever it is. And you're like, Jesus, your eyes are watering looking at these things. But take that girl out of there, put her in a Games Workshop t-shirt, and replace all of the merchandise with Warhammer. It's exactly the same attitude. It's exactly the same thing that they do. So, and the thing is that Ann Summers look at it as a we're a luxury item, but we treat it with a bit of humility, right? They actually go, when we did studies on them, because we did do studies, we did market studies in Ann Summers, they would actually go and they would do sales, and they would do advertisements, and they would do all these other things that Games Workshop won't do. And it's the one thing that they were allergic to. It was shameful to them that they would have to advertise. And one thing my trainer once said to me is that he said, yeah, we don't advertise in our market, right? We don't advertise our models because we are the fucking market, right? We don't advertise because we are the market. There is no other market. If you want the best models, you buy our products. That's it. That was the stranglehold. And I'm wondering what happens to the company when 3D printing starts to really ramp up, and that stranglehold, that mountain stranglehold, starts to erode away with the water. I'm wondering what they do, if they panic, or whether they have a huge, I don't know. But
redundancies and shutting stores. That's the very first thing.
The little guy will suffer. They won't be the top guys,
It'll be the people who were trying to keep it running on the ground level. They'll be the first to go.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be an ask for voluntary redundancies. Then there'll be forced redundancies. The very last thing they'll start looking at is their management structure. It's the way these things go. And, it sounds so sad when we say it out loud. But again, which companies in history have been able to successfully, market the way Games Workshop has at the size they have, and make it work?
I mean, in a way, you've got to, as I did before, you've got to take your hat off to them in a way, for cornering the market, using their brand, and saying, look, you may find Mantic cheaper, you may find Malifaux cheaper, but it ain't us. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't us. And there'll be people who can get over that. But there'll be people who go, well, if it doesn't have Games Workshop on the front of the box, it's not a quality product. And that's where they are. That's what they've established. It'll be very interesting, before we leave this part of the video, it'll be very interesting to see in the next 20, 30 years what they do. I'm really interested to see what they do from an outsider's perspective, because some of the egos that are there will not be able to take that there's some douche in his front room who can print models that are of a similar quality for a fraction of the price. That is not a thing that a lot of them will be able to compute. It's one of those. There's a lot of old heads over there that may roll when profits start to go down. But anyway, talk me through what is going on with on your channel right now. That's the main crux of it. To build it, paint it, play it. It's something that I've really. Well, you talk about it. You explain what it is to the viewers, and we'll get into it afterwards.
So what I'm trying to do, and I've shown you like an early version of a graphic. Essentially, I believe the whole hobby as a cycle. Yeah. Show it freely.
Thank you.
So I haven't really gone into depth talking about it yet, but what it is this cycle of what the hobby is at its heart, deep down, the way I always interpreted it. And again, everyone's going to have their own interpretation, but this is mine. And I thought with the platform I have, I should try and do something to, improve on the hobby in my own small way. I can't go out and create a miniatures company. It doesn't matter if I understand how to make molds and run a factory, and I can't compete with the juggernauts, right?
No.
But what I can do is try and encourage people to do the sort of hobby that I think is, you know, the hobby that we all aimed for when I got in, essentially. The inspiration, this is the end goal. And as a part of what I do in my spare time is I like looking after scouts. I teach skills to scouts groups, like, survival and all that sort of thing, and just general life advice, all the things you do with scouts. And the scouts has this whole pathway system where you start at, level 1 in bushwalking. It's like, can you pick out the right clothes for bushwalking? And, can you then go on a small, short bushwalk, And then it just adds a little bit harder when it goes, level 2 scouting. All right, now you can, pick out the particular brand and pick out the advantages and disadvantages, and it just slowly builds on it until it's like, I can go out for, 14 days straight and pack all of my own equipment and food, and I'm going to come back alive at the end of it, right? At the high end. And I want to do something similar with the hobby. So I want to have a series of progressions where what I'm trying to sort out, and this is the hard part because I got to try and find a way to finance it, is I want to have some sort of like a badge system where it's like you can be awarded when you reach each level within the hobby, as a point of personal pride, right? It's not something to show off to your friends and say I'm better than you because I'm a level 4, but rather just your own sense of accomplishment. So a lot of people won't ever get out there to events. They won't ever get out to play tournaments. They'll never get appreciated for the hobby that they're producing. But I want to start this initiative where people can go out. They will be encouraged, basically. There'll be 3 pathways. To build it, hey, I built my models. I achieved that goal. I painted my models. I achieved that goal. And I actually played a game with my models. I achieved that goal. And there might be a couple of levels. There doesn't need to be 9 levels of hobby, but I'm thinking 2 or 3 levels. Again, early days and what the price is going to be. So I'd like to have something like a sticker or a commemorative token to say, like, you've completed all of this. You are a hobbyist who has gone the full way to achieve what is the end goal, really, in hobby, which is to build a decent sized army for a game system. And I don't care what the game system is, right? I don't care whether you play bolt action, whether you play Star Wars Legion. I don't care whether you want to play the old Halo game that was discontinued, Battletech, whatever. Build me a model, paint that model. It's like, bam, that's level 1, paint a whole unit. That's your level 2. And then maybe level 3 is I built a whole army for the system, and I built it all and I painted it all and I played a game with it. And that's the goal at the end of the day, to encourage people to go out and do all of those things together, put down the pile of shame, and let's try and knock over a few of these hurdles. That's the initiative in a nutshell.
That's pretty good. So when I know a lot of people will be looking at this, and because we do have scouts here in the UK, and they do have a similar system. How would you? Are we looking at this as a business or as an initiative, or will it be a set place where you can do this with trainers and people who you can actually get taught, or what are we looking at?
Well, I don't think that it should be run like a business. It is a hobby at the end of the day. So really, I think it relies on people to be honest and upfront with themselves, and to achieve their level 1s, their level 2s, they can mark it off for themselves. And I think at the end of that level 3, maybe that could be they send a picture of their army, maybe a big picture of their army playing a game, all painted up and that, and send it off to me and go, look, this is what we achieved out of Circle. Can we have a sticker to represent that we achieved all of this? And then hopefully I can send them a sticker in the mail. Just say to them, look, you pay for the cost of it, essentially, but I'll send it to you.
That's pretty cool.
And that's it. I don't want to make money off it. I don't care about making money.
No. I mean,
money means more taxes.
Yeah. I mean, you have a channel, and that is also something that you could use to perhaps say, hey guys, you do this, you can be on the, your army can be shown on the channel. You can be shown on, like, here's somebody who went through the process. They started with this, and then molded it into this. They started with one set of stormtroopers, and now they've got an entire Imperial army. It's great, that kind of thing. I think that's a really cool initiative because I'm one of these people who needs a kick in the arse. Do you know what I mean? Like I get home from work or I stop working in the office and I'm like, okay, can I really be bothered painting my Warhammer this evening? And if you've got something to aim for, that's what I've always said to people, is that tournament players don't realize how lucky they've got it because they've got an event to aim for, Whereas people who don't go to tournaments don't really have that unless they've got like a casual thing coming up where they're going to play with a few friends. But if you've got friends who don't really care about painting, then why would you bother, I think something like this, especially in the modern world where people are growing a lot more distant, this would be a great way to challenge themselves and to make sure that as part of your community, they're holding each other accountable. That'd be great. I think that's a great... And with it not being... the one worry I had was that, okay, is this going to be like an Andrew Tate sort of a thing? Where you're just like... Hey, send me some money.
Pay me to become an alpha hobbyist.
Yeah. Send me some money and I'll transform you into like this master painter, And there's your sticker, bitch, right next, kind of thing. But I really like
where the price thing is I'm like, do I do it just as stickers or do I do it as like a commemorative coin? I would really like to do commemorative coin, but I have to outweigh that cost up front, right? So I'm trying to basically I've got to go to China. And I've got to say, what price can you do this design for at the end of the day? And if it comes back at too high a point where I can't pay for it out of my bank account, my savings, and people just aren't interested in the program, well, so be it. But it's not a for-profit. It will be a strictly, it'll be the little medallion, essentially like a miniature version of hopefully what you've shown people on screen, just a little 3 build, paint, play, like the 3 arrows going into one another. It'll be like a little medallion of that. And it's just to symbolize maybe even just like a pendant that they can, like with a pin on the back, or they can clip onto their shirt. I don't know. Again, I'm canvassing for ideas. So if people have ideas, please put them in Northern's comments below the video of what they prefer, whether they were coin, sticker, little lapel pin. But it's something that they can, wear with pride, or keep on their shelf and say, like, really, the whole reason you do a hobby is to achieve these goals. If that is the goals that people hold for themselves as well, I should add. And I did it. I achieved that goal. I achieved something that I set out to do.
I wouldn't
rather
mind...
than this cycle of Sorry, go on.
I wouldn't mind because I've got a few companies that I'm in with for the channel, so they do my prizes for me. So if somebody wins, I've got it's a famous thing now. I've now got a 4th Redemptor. Not Redemptor, Repulsor. I don't want. They did. So they have an overview of stock and they go, oh, North can have that, and they send it to me and I can give it out as a prize. I wouldn't mind putting something behind that towards this. Do you know what I mean? Like if you do like a monthly, oh, you painted it, great, show me, and we'll judge them. And then so you can judge them on your channel, and you go, right, cool, here's a repulsor, or here's something else, a little prize here and there. That'd be pretty cool.
I'd be open to just saying, like, you could look after the UK ones, for example.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be, I'm not the arbiter of hobby. I'm not the hobby police. It shouldn't be up to me to judge everyone else's work.
Yeah.
I want people in their local communities, the figures within their local communities who people trust to be the ones who, can do it for me. Say, Macca, can we please get 100 of these coins? Here's the money that costs the coins. We mail it over to them, and then they're able to
do that.
Hand them out to their own community.
Yeah.
Something like that, and it could be something like we just, in our community tabs on our YouTube channels, like, here's pictures I was sent this week of people's stuff. Look at them go with their hobby, and we could just chuck a few of those pictures up. And, just to try and, again, people will not get... we don't do participation trophies for adults, right?
Yeah,
but people will not get praise. Adults, especially men, tend to not get a lot of praise in their life. But if you've accomplished something and you've earned it and you've worked hard for it, it's nice to be acknowledged by your peers.
Mm-hmm.
It is, all the hobby goals I've ever had, I've achieved them. So I'm content now. I only ever have to please myself. But a lot of people never get to do that. They think of, one day I'd love to go and win a golden demon. And they look at their work and they go, I'll never achieve it. So they don't paint.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to find some way to motivate people to have that goal, and then just a little something that I can give back. That's my hope. I don't know if I will achieve it, but that's the hope.
No. It's an amazing goal, and that's one of the things that I really, because I feel that. You start looking at your models and you think, I'm never going to be as good as this guy, or I'm never going to get to the point where, I have the army that I want. But if you can start to structure it, I've often said to people, as much as we've said this is a really expensive hobby and Games Workshop are the devil and shit like that, yeah, it is. But if you have a job, or you have income, right, and a lot of people tend to find that they can't see the wood for the trees. So if they say in terms of disposable income, they have what, £50 a month. That's like $100 Australian, right, a month. It's not a lot, and maybe that's after everything's paid for, gas, everything, right? So they're going to look at that and go, well, I can't afford a Warhammer army. That's, well, true, my friend, you can't right now. But what you can afford is a box of intercessors, right? Get that, get some paints, and then start your way. This is an incredible tool to help somebody through that journey. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm getting out of it. It's not, oh, you've got all this disposable income. Well, build it, paint it. No. It's more for people who are like, I need to see the end goal and slowly but surely get there. I want to slowly but surely get that Black Templars army of 1,000 points that I've always dreamed of. I want to get there. So I need to buy this one box of intercessors and then the paints, and then I can build and paint them. They're finished, and now I've got something to look at, and now I've got something to build on. This is the kind of thing that Games Workshop should be doing, and they pay lip service to it all the time. Well, they used to build, paint, play, right? This is what you've done here is what Games Workshop used to say. It used to be in all the stores on a big poster. It'd be like a rectangular poster with arrows. Build, paint, play. That's what they used to do, and it's gone now. They don't do it anymore. But this is the kind of thing that they should be pushing. And they're focused on getting you in the door. They're not focused on keeping you in the house. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this is very much focused on, come on in, and whilst you're here, we'll get you to the end goal of what you want. Do you know what I mean? And I think there aren't enough places doing that.
I sent you through a picture just now of what I suggested in a video probably a year ago now of things I would change in Games Workshop. What should be put up on their walls in my mind, something to this effect. And very much this is, the direction that I think things should be heading in. And it was a picture, basically, what the company should be encouraging. Make that purchase, paint the unit, invite a friend along, play the game together. That should be your Warhammer heroes.
Just going to shorten it down because I always download things in a much higher resolution than it needs to be. There we go.
I do the same. But, that was something I suggested, obviously. It falls on deaf ears, but I thought, I can at least hopefully put myself in the position to do something like that. To turn each and every one of you, instead of having Paragons, the community that you look up to, make yourself the Paragon of your own little community.
Well, this is the. Do you remember the explosion of popularity that Duncan Rhodes had back in the day?
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're talking about. In that he was essentially a hobby Big Brother to people, and people have been that starved for that kind of content. He just exploded, because they saw this is the guy. He teaches me how to do painting, and instead of me needing to go to a Games Workshop and have a really awkward interaction with some sort of overly zealous leg-humping manager, I can get my information out of this really pleasant guy on YouTube. That information works. It's a pathway. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a pathway. And I think it's one of those incentives where Games Workshop didn't pay the man, and so he left. I mean, obviously. When I said they didn't pay the man, not enough. They were giving him some money, but wasn't anywhere near what he should have been earning. And so he left. And I think that's where we are with Games Workshop, is that they get a bloody nose from one person, and they say, right, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing this pathway thing anymore. they're really overly focused on getting you to buy into the hobby, but they do nothing to keep you there. That's my problem. And it shouldn't be,
Nothing for sustainment.
no, and it shouldn't be down to small YouTubers like you and me and people like us to keep people in the hobby. That should be their job. But the fact that you're stepping up like this and doing this is great. I think it's a really good incentive, and I think a lot of other people who are in the comments will probably echo that sentiment as well. Is that there aren't enough incentives like this, especially. I mean, I wouldn't say this incentive would come from an Australian, the way that you guys are treated with prices and with stock levels and with pretty much everything to do with the hobby. If there are two countries in the world where Games Workshop just basically tell you, we don't want you here, it's New Zealand and Australia. So, to do something like this is really, really, really cool. And I've been waiting for something like this in the hobby for a long time. I'm kind of shocked. Vanguard Tactics do it, kind of. But they do it in a way of, we'll teach you how to play the game and to be really competitive. Which is fine. But that's not what I'm in the hobby for. And I would say that's not what most people are in the hobby for, right? It's one subject we'll get onto in a bit before I let you go, because I know it's going to be late over there. In that the 40k, or the hobby in general, especially Games Workshop, has become more esports-ified. It's become more competitive. It's become, they ask you the dreaded question before a game, what are you running? What? I'm not running anything. I like Space Marines. I'm just, do you want to know what world they're from? No. What special rules do you have for this, that, and the other? Dude, I don't fucking know. Just let me roll some dice. I just want to have some fun. And I will say this as well. If you're making the Horus Heresy players seem like the joyful ones in the room, your hobby's fucking miserable. I love Horus Heresy, but you guys in Horus Heresy, you know your rules. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, A1, A2, A3, you know your rules, you know what you're doing. And you need to. One thing I like about it is they're very welcoming, but you need to develop your skills to become a good Horus Heresy player. You need to be in there, and eventually you get there. But the modern 40k scene now, to me, this kind of initiative sort of remedies that a little bit. It says, well, okay, yeah, we know it's competitive. We know it's fine, but if you just want to get involved and be in the hobby and grow your local area, you can do that. And I think that's a message that is incredibly important. I've tried to do it. It's a lot harder than it seems. When people say, why don't you just do it? Well, it's I've got a game finder on my Discord, and people meet you up for games, but not as much as I'd like. It's incredibly difficult. But one thing I'd like to, before I take anything else away, is that I'm glad you're doing it, but you shouldn't have to. Do you know what I'm saying?
Better people with a better reputation than me should really be doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a slight. I mean it as I don't have the resources, the time, or the presence, especially given my reputation in the community. At least outside of those who know me.
We'll get into that in a sec if you want.
Well enough, because
yeah.
but I'd love to see big channels with a lot of subscribers being the ones to really push it and encourage it and make it work and bring that sense of pride and accomplishment that I think is just sorely lacking in the community. Some motivation,
I think
I hope that other better people than me can make it happen.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are, because I don't know. There's tons of them who are, we are tiny voices on YouTube at the end of the day, but there should be somebody out there, and I'm sure you'd be fine with it if they said, I'm going to pick this bull up and run with it. You'd be like, yeah, fucking have at it, dude.
Here's the keys. Here's the keys to the car. Help yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are out there, and I know you do watch sometimes, you're bigger YouTubers, Valrak's on. If you want to jump in, get involved, I don't think Maka would say no. So yeah,
I'd happily let a ton of different people have a go at it, because again, I am not the gatekeeper, the arbiter of all hobby.
No, of course.
There are a range of different people with different opinions to myself as well. But if they want to encourage the initiative, I'd happily do my best to help them to encourage the initiative.
on those opinions, before, there's one thing I wanted to end on before we go anywhere else, because I don't think I'm gonna blow a bit of smoke up your arse now. Are you ready? Because I don't think you get the credit you deserve at all. I think your channel's great, and I think like I don't see where the negativity comes from. I see you've got a rep for being a negative Nancy when it comes to Games Workshop products, but at the end of the day, I've seen plenty of videos where you praise Games Workshop's products and the models, and even a few pricing decisions, which has been very surprising to me considering the rep. And I don't think somebody who's negative about the hobby puts the time and the effort into putting, or to start to put something together like this when they're not going to see a cent. You know, just something that I needed to say, because I'm the kind of person who really doesn't like negative feedback. I don't mean like I get angry. I get hurt. I'm like, oh my god, what have I done wrong there? You know, and it can be. I think you're in a very good position in that this isn't your job. Do you know what I mean? That this isn't what you do. You just do. I mean, put it this way, right? Do you know that thumbnail you put on the other? I love the video. It's brilliant, but it was about keep politics out of the hobby, right? I don't know another YouTuber who could put that thumbnail on YouTube without a massive sense of trepidation. But the fact that you went, do you know what? Fuck it, no, I'm putting it all on there. Screw it. I've got something to say. I don't think people realize how valuable a YouTuber like that is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's incredibly valuable to have a YouTube channel where it's just like, here are my balls. You know, figures. You know what I mean? Like, here they are, unadulterated. That's my opinion. And I'm not neutering it. I'm not taking it away. I'm not pussyfooting around. I don't give a shit if it tanks. I think that's incredibly valuable. And I think in the neutered YouTube landscape these days, where we have a lot of hobbyists on YouTube who tend to, shall we say, butter up their opinions when it comes to Games Workshop, to be kind, and there are certain ones who are blatantly paid off by free models and free trips to Warhammer World and shit like that. I think it's incredibly valuable to have a channel where things are said that are just absolutely, how do I put it? Unadulterated would be the best way of doing it. Do you know what I mean? So thanks for doing that. And this is what I meant when I said you shouldn't have to do this. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're the one who gets in the neck all the time for being negative and for being, you know, oh, here he goes again, talking about prices, talking about this, talking about that. What these idiots don't understand is when they finally get to the wall and they say, actually, no, it is too expensive now. Well, then you've been shouting at one of the one guys who's been saying this is fucking stupid for years. so and they will come around. But yeah, I just thought I needed to say that to you because, you know, it is a really good initiative and you deserve a lot of credit for it. So any help you need from me, just ask and I'll do it. If it's anything to do with UK stuff, or if you can tell me where to print off these coins or whatever, I can get them to people in the UK and we can do that. But hopefully somebody with a bit more resources than us can see the idea and go, oh, that's a good idea, and we'll come along and do it.
I hope, thank you for your kind words, first of all, but I sincerely, I won't be around doing this forever. You know, yeah. I don't know how many, because I don't like the negativity. There is an element of it in there, but to me, it's just the cynical realism of the situation. Mm-hmm. There'll come a point where I don't enjoy it, and I go, like, this isn't my money earner. This isn't my primary form of employment. Mm-hmm. You yourself know it does not pay bills, YouTube. No. It is, no. You know, it will never be my life. My life is, you know, engineering and teaching, manufacturing environments. You know, it's where I come from. At some point, my channel will end. For now, it's there, and I get to throw my opinions out there, but I'm just another opinionated ass on the YouTube at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But I at least have a platform. I have a voice, therefore I owe it to the community that has gone out of their way to... the guys who stayed at my house recently will tell you, I get up in the morning and I sit there and I read through all the comments. The first thing I do every morning is read through all of the comments. Same. I don't reply to them all. there's only so much time in the day, but I at least try to reply to about 1 in 10 because that's how many come in each day. Wade through the death threats, the so negatives.
Yeah.
You get those positive gems as well along the way. People say very kind things. It happens, which is great. You wade through that every morning, and then at the end of the month you get a couple $100. And you got to monetize, because if you don't, YouTube will monetize your videos anyway. They just keep all of the money.
Yeah.
So I'm using that money. Well, one, it funds things that we review on the channel, like books and stuff like that. But I want to use that money to fund this initiative. And for now, my voice is out there. I get to say it how I see it. But do remember, I am also a character. My personality dialed up to like 11 or 12, right? For the sake of YouTube. And I say, like, if I talk about Games Workshop, I'll say things like, fire the fucking lot of them at the manager. I wouldn't do that in real life, right? In real life, if I was actually as professional manager walking in there, I'd handle it very differently. But for the sake of YouTube, and you've got to create a persona.
Of course, yeah.
I will say that much. And this persona, like I say, will only last for so long. I encourage people to get into the hobby. I think the hobby is very beneficial, but I also care a lot about people and looking after themselves mentally, financially, all of that. And there will come a point where I say, I think encouraging people into this hobby is doing them a disservice. And just how I won't advertise for companies, I won't take commissions on, like, if I do review a product, I don't click this link and I get a cut of it. I don't do that. I don't talk about like Raid Shadow Legends, things like that. I get offers daily for that sort of thing because of my morals. And I'm not judging those.
I fucking would. Raid, if you want to,
but I don't.
Come on, I'll do it.
I don't judge those who do it either, because again, a lot of people need to. YouTube is their living. They've got to put food on the table for themselves somehow, and if they've got to, do certain things, well, who am I to say that they're wrong? But for my personal standard, I won't do that.
Of course, yeah.
But there will come a point where I say, I don't think I could live with myself if I'm telling you to buy this product. It will come that day. I don't know when, but it will happen.
Do you not think it's already come with certain products that they've released?
To some degree, it's beginning. Same as like during COVID, we had a Patreon. I stopped taking money over 8 months, I reckon, of Patreon. I just said, no, refund. I just didn't made it free for even though it was $1. Our lowest buy-in tier is $1, because some people just wanted to give to the channel, so I created a Patreon. And I said, that's it, $1 is all I asked. And I just didn't charge people for like 8 months because I wanted them to be financially stable during an uncertain time. Those are my morals, for better or worse. They're the ones that I've adopted in life. And yeah, so it won't last forever. And hopefully I can, like, maybe this is my one, like, Hail Mary, last hurrah at achieving something good. The penitent man on the deathbed, paying his bribe to the church so he goes to heaven. Who knows?
Well, you're going to be. I'm thinking you're going to be that guy. I'll probably be William Marshall, who was asked on his deathbed. He's this tournament night, and he said, "Oh, do you want to give any money to the church or to the poor?" And he just laughed, shit himself, and died. That's probably where I'm going to go. To be honest with you, is die. Fuck it, it's overly cynical. But one thing I wanted to ask before we finish: do when people meet you in real life? Because you said about the character before, right? Are they ever shocked about how you are when you're speaking to them?
Quite a bit. Some people will like. I get a lot of, I don't think he likes me because they've interacted with me online or whatever.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
Most people who meet me in real life just know I'm a pretty happy guy. Like,
yeah.
People visit. As soon as they visit and they play games at my place, they're like, when can we come over next? Like they have an absolute blast hanging out with me, because if I was a absolute miserable person to be around, do you think I'd ever get games?
Yeah.
It's the long short. Do you think I'd ever get guests on the channel?
Especially in Horus Heresy, it's not a big community. It's not a lot smaller.
No, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
I still have those traits that are from the channel, the cynicism, the negativity, all that is very real and very there. But it's a lot more suppressed compared to the full-on unleashing that happens on the channel. Because it's got to be, because you can't live your life like that, right?
No, you have a heart attack.
Everything's got to be in balance.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I get that as well.
it's
Yeah.
yin yang.
Yeah, I get that. I've had people even on live streams when they've spoken to me if I've done like a charity live stream or something. They've been like, "Oh wow, you're really chill." Like, yeah, I don't just walk around flipping tables over because of Games Workshop's price increases. You know what I mean? I've got dinner to cook. Like, you know, it's not like it is a character at the end of the day. It's and as you said, it's like that's a really good way of putting it. I often use. With 40k, I use wrestling analogies because I think WWE and Games Workshop are very similar in a lot of ways. I know I'll do a video on it at some point, but it's freaky how similar they are and how they operate. But the way wrestlers term their characters is the best ones, the ones that you make your money on, are you, but with the volume turned up to 11. That's what Steve Austin said about his own character. He said, "It's me. I drink, I swear, I'm very conservative, you know. Fuck 'em. I'm from Texas, so I'm like that. I'm a normal dude. But if I turn all the way up to 11, you got Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? That you got this guy who earns $50 million a year, you know, traveling around the world doing that sort of shit. And that's what Northern Exile is. It's basically just me with the volume turned up a bit, you know, quite a bit actually. Now that I think about it, but it is one of those YouTube things, isn't it?
To be,
Like,
if we're our normal selves,
yeah.
if we were our absolute normal selves, we would be very boring.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen yeah, I know it's not a big. People don't want to talk about him these days, but you know, Dr. Disrespect, that streamer. If you look at one of Guy Beam's interviews, he's just boring. You know, he just yeah, you know, just yeah. But you look at one of his live streams, and he's this ball of energy. It just never stops. You know, it's impossible. You can't carry it on forever. But I hope you do. I hope and I hope nobody comes away from this video like, oh my god, Outer Circle's going away. No, it's not. No, eventually, maybe. That's what he was saying, I think, without putting words in Macca's mouth. Eventually, maybe.
Correct.
But not
Eventually,
now.
maybe.
Yeah, but not now. You're having too much fun over there, I think, with all the video upload schedule. But I will let you go because it's getting a bit late, so I don't want to keep you up all night. And but thanks for coming on, Mac. It's been awesome.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. It's always a pleasure, and more just because I miss chatting with you. It's been ages since we actually.
Yeah, we'll connect. We'll connect. I need to get to Australia at some point, but it's so fucking expensive to get down there. I have looked. It's really expensive. Like it's, and it's also the flight from hell to get over there. So
I live in a very peaceful little spot. This little town outside of Ballarat, which is sort of the closest big town to me, and friends who visited have looked at buying houses in the street because they're like, we could have a street that's all acre plus blocks of land, all owned by hobbyists with a place to game. Like, how tempting is that?
Yeah, I think that's the part where the missus is like, yeah, she won't let me go because I won't come back. You know, I'll be like, right, I've got a ranch, fuck it, I'm staying here. You know,
well, sacrifices sometimes have to be made. I'm just saying.
on the altar of the hobby, it's like, yeah. Good news is I'm finally now into Horus Heresy. It's great. But anyway, cheers. Thanks for watching, guys. And also, check out Macca's channel, obviously. It's in the description down below. And we'll speak to you soon. See you later.